White House, trying to do sick thing to Trump. Amidst all the coverage of what NFL players were and were not doing during the singing of our national anthem, a man was on his way to the White House, and he was armed. This man, who was stopped by Secret Service officers, told them he was headed to the White House for advice on missing paychecks and how to get the chip out of my head from Secretary of Defense James Mattis and NSA Director Mike Rogers. The Secret Service subsequently searched his car, which had Tennessee plates, where they found 3 knives, 9 guns, including R&X-style rifles, ammunition, suppressors, brass knuckles, and silencers. Courtesy of Al Mutazber News Network via YouTube.com. CNN reported that the man has been charged with weapons violations and is now under mental observation. Dang, y'all, that's really scary. Not just for Mattis and Rogers, but for Trump, Pence and everyone else in the White House. I'm sure glad the Secret Service is on the ball. They actually just stopped the man for public urination. Mental health issues are nothing to laugh about, and we must ensure that people with mental health issues can get good help. Of course, not all people with mental health issues are a danger. At the same time, situations like these are a good reminder for all of us that we need to address the mental health healthcare crisis in America. If you are happy that the Secret Service is on the ball, protecting our president and others in the White House, please share this and comment "Thank you, Secret Service." H/T, The Hill. Rex Tillerson just bowed down to this Soviet officer who averted nuclear Armageddon. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson took a moment to mention the passing, and to respect a man who probably saved the world from nuclear destruction. Secretary Tillerson said, "Just this week, the world learned of the passing of a little-known, but important figure in the history of the Cold War. His name was Stanislav Petrov, and he is sometimes referred to as the man who saved the world." Mr. Petrov was on duty one night in 1983, when his systems told him that the United States had launched nuclear bombs at the Soviet Union. This was during the Cold War, when tensions between the two countries were always high. Instead of just reacting, Mr. Petrov remained calm, recognizing this was a false alarm and averting retaliation by the Soviet Union. Courtesy of BBC News, via YouTube.com. Tillerson brought Mr. Petrov up during a recent meeting of the UN Security Council, saying, his episode illustrates just how high the risk factor is with nuclear weapons. Trump and Tillerson recognize that one country can change things in a way that could avert nuclear disaster. Tillerson said, "If China truly desires to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula to promote stability and to avoid conflict in that sensitive region right on its own border, now's the time to work with the rest of us, to put the kind of pressure on North Korea that can change its strategic calculations before it's too late." If you agree with how Trump is handling things with North Korea, please share this and comment "I support Trump." HTRT.com. The crowd at Obama's house last night were caught screaming the worst thing imaginable. Barack Obama has been popping his head back into the media with little strategically placed interviews and tweets. And last night, outside of Obama's home in Greenwich nonetheless, a crowd did the most un-American thing possible. While Michelle and Barack were attempting to leave their house, they were ambushed by a mob of unrelenting fans. That's when it happened. The crowd was heard chanting, "Still my president." To be fair, Obama was not commanding them, but just the sentiment and the ferocity of these stalker fans is terrifying enough. I'm sorry, y'all, but that's just not right. Obama is absolutely not still the President of the United States. Once Trump's term is over, I will take the same position on him too. That's how the country works after all. I take no offense to "Not My President" bumper stickers. Each side buys them from time to time. However, these rabid Obamanites have already shown their devotion to their perceived leader. If nothing else, it's insane that these people are allowed to crowd into a neighborhood at all. This needs to stop. The cult followings. The burning cars. The blocking streets. And now this fantasy of alternative presidents. Show people that Americans as a whole stand against it by helping spread this video to everyone. People need to see this side of the population so we know what we are actually up against. Right after the game, Steelers coach Mike Tomlin did something horrible to Army Ranger who stood for anthem. This Sunday, NFL players made a point to unite together against our president and our military. The Pittsburgh Steelers made the ultimate cowardly move and stayed in the locker room during the national anthem. Only one player on the team, Alejandro Villanueva, had the courage to go against orders from the coach and stand on the field for the anthem. Villanueva is a former Army Ranger who served 3 tours in Afghanistan and was awarded the Bronze Star Medal for valor. He wasn't going to let politics come before his patriotism. But instead of praising Villanueva or understanding why standing for the anthem is so important to an Army Ranger, Steelers coach Mike Tomlin trashed his own player, claiming that Villanueva was disrespecting his team. Tomlin said in a post-game press conference that he was looking for 100% participation in whatever course of action the team took during the national anthem. When asked by a reporter about Villanueva coming out for the anthem, Tomlin said, "Like I said, I was looking for 100% participation. We were gonna be respectful of our football team." Apparently Coach Tomlin cares more about having respect for his football team than he does about respecting our veterans. Tomlin also took a sideswipe at President Trump, saying that he didn't appreciate being dragged into politics this weekend. Someone needs to remind Tomlin that it wasn't Trump who inserted politics into football. You can thank your whiny, entitled, attention-seeking football players for that. Video of Tomlin's disgraceful reaction can be seen below. America has spoken right after the NFL united against Trump and America. They got the worst news imaginable. This Sunday, NFL players made a point to unite together against our president and our country. Players on nearly every team showed some form of protest and disrespect for our military men and women. 3 teams, the Seahawks, Titans and Steelers, made the ultimate cowardly move and stayed in the locker room during the national anthem. Only one player on the Pittsburgh Steelers, Alejandro Villanueva, had the courage to go against orders from the coach and stand on the field for the anthem. Villanueva is a former Army Ranger who served 3 tours in Afghanistan and deserves to be commended for his actions. These entitled NFL millionaires seemed pretty proud of themselves for their disgraceful behavior, but after their performances ended Sunday, they got hit with a harsh dose of reality. Not only did ratings drop, stock shares of every single company that broadcast NFL games plummeted. Comcast, Walt Disney, Fox, CBS are all down between 1% to 8%. An article in The Hollywood Reporter reckons the drop in NFL ratings could trim the broadcaster's earnings by $200 million. Disney's ESPN, meanwhile, also continues to get hammered by cord cutting. Our president is standing with the majority of Americans on this issue. A Reuters poll found that 72% of Americans find kneeling during the anthem unpatriotic. Let's be honest, this isn't about race, inequality or police brutality. It's about selfish entitled egomaniacs just finding another way to play the victim. Sure, it's their right to choose not to participate in our national anthem, but where would they be if our military members chose not to participate in fighting for their freedom? Maybe they need to think about that. The media won't talk about why this Sudanese immigrant shot up a church in Tennessee. The 25-year-old Sudanese immigrant Emmanuel Kaidga Samson stormed into a Tennessee church on Sunday and opened fire. He wore a clown mask. He started by murdering one woman in the parking lot. He then walked right into the church and opened fire on 7 others. Here is driver's license photo. Not much is known about Samson. He turned the gun on himself. According to the Washington Times, he is about to discharged from the hospital. He is going to be charged with murder and attempted murder. Here are the pics of the shooter's social media. There is a reason that this story has not been in the national news much. It's because it goes against the narrative that the media is putting out. They won't talk about it because they do not want to know why he shot up that church. The media wants a story like this to disappear. Share this story everywhere and pray for all the injured. There are 7 people in Tennessee that need our prayers right now. They should not be ignored because of the color of their skin by the mainstream media. Leave a prayer in the comments below, y'all. Slammed Mike Rowe just put the NFL on its knees with this one sentence that has Trump smiling ear to ear. TV host Mike Rowe has never been one to argue politics, or really even bring them up at all. He's built his name and reputation as a blue-collar guy who strongly supports vocational education, but keeps his distance from hot-button issues in an effort to stay neutral. However, the landscape of politics has changed a great deal and Rowe finally felt the need to speak out. The recent controversy surrounding the NFL and the national anthem sparked a rant from Rowe that took everyone by surprise. Not only did he say what many Americans have been feeling, he chose not to hold back when pointing the finger. Rowe was at an event taking questions from fans when the truth came rolling out. "I know you avoid politics, thanks, and I remember your rant on the Colts leaving Baltimore," asked a fan named Robert. "But I gotta ask, what's happening to professional football, and what do you make of Trump's comments about those who refused to stand during the national anthem?" Then out of nowhere, Rowe hit the crowd with a brilliant breakdown of what's really going on. "Right now," Rowe said, "the NFL, the players who choose to kneel, the networks who choose to broadcast their protest, the advertisers who sponsor the games are all eager for our attention. And they are all using football to get it. That's all well and good, right up to the point where it isn't. In my view, this controversy really isn't about patriotism, social justice, racial inequality, or free speech. It's not even about the flag or the national anthem. It's really only about one thing: what we will tolerate, and what we won't." Next in line was NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and the NFL Players Association. I felt a similar bemusement when the commissioner issued his response, followed by the president of the Players Union. Their comments, along with the comments of many of the players themselves, were perfectly reasonable, perfectly understandable, and perfectly in keeping with their First Amendment rights. But they were also perfectly arrogant. Because they too presuppose that millions of fans will continue to watch them play a game, no matter what, Rowe wrote. Players and teams shouldn't be bringing their personal politics into something meant to be neutral. It's a game, it's supposed to fun and unifying, not unpatriotic and disrespectful. The players have agents and unions, the owners have money and power, and the fans are always caught in the middle. The resulting strikes and the constant uprooting of teams from broken-hearted towns proves beyond all question the overall lack of regard for fans in general. But Rowe finished with a rallying statement that all members of the NFL should listen to, pointing out that fans ultimately have the power. But here's the thing, Rowe concludes. The fans of professional football are not powerless, we're just not yet offended enough to turn the channel. Should that ever change in a meaningful way, if for instance, a percentage of football fans relative to those players who chose to kneel during today's games, chose to watch something else next Sunday, I can assure you the matter would be resolved by Monday. Rowe is right that money is dictating most of these players' politics. According to Rowe and most Americans, these protests have been purposely sick and controversial to gain as much attention as possible. You can speak your mind without stepping on this nation's history and values, something President Trump proves possible on the daily. Do you all agree with Rowe and think these childish protests are a waste of time? Let us know and share this amazing truth with the world. Sources: dailycaller.com. Judge throws book at Whiner and gives him stiff sentence. What Whiner does next is shocking. It's finally happened. Anthony Whiner will finally be punished for the disgusting things he has done. He is the former Democratic congressman, who ran for mayor of New York, and kept getting caught doing some really creepy stuff. His wife, longtime Clinton aide Huma Abedin, stood by him through most of it too. That is, until he was caught sexting gross parts of his anatomy to a female, while he was laying in bed with their little boy. I mean, that's just perverse and gross. And she finally filed for divorce. You think Hillary told her to stay? I mean, she did. Nuff said. Acting U.S. Attorney June Kim said Monday that Whiner asked a 15-year-old girl to engage in sexually explicit conduct for him online. For this, he will spend 21 months in a federal prison. He will also be required to participate in sexual offender treatment and to pay a $10,000 fine. And more. Courtesy of ABC News, via YouTube.com. The judge said there was a need for deterrence in this case. You think? Apparently he sobbed audibly when the sentence was read. Good. Check out what the ladies from The View had to say, too. Courtesy of The View via YouTube.com. Just as a reminder, he had to resign from Congress in 2011 after a disgusting photo he'd sexted emerged online. He kept doing that kind of gross stuff, too. Why not? No one, including his wife, gave him any consequences. Until now. Thank God he was prosecuted and will have to spend time in prison. He'll be monitored after he gets out, too, with online supervision. And they're taking his cell away, too. A grown man. Yuck. The Hill,